It was the pivotal day of World War II, the most massive military operation in history. 160,000 Allied infantrymen converged on the beaches of Normandy to break through the impenetrable walls of German-held Fortress Europe. D-Day, the 6th of June, 1944. Walter Martinez, a sergeant in the 2nd Ranger Battalion, was among those in the first wave to hit the beaches. 14 German divisions were waiting for them on the battlefront. In 1942, an armada of American and British warships heads for North Africa to make the first Allied amphibious landing of World War II. Pushing back the Axis powers, the Allies now have their first foothold on foreign soil. From the moment when the Allied armies begin pushing back the German army, the ultimate goal has been to invade France. To do so, the Allies need to break through Hitler's formidable seawall. For 4 years, he has been building this barrier of concrete, steel, and artillery all along the Atlantic coast of France. September 1943, the American 1st Division, the Big Red One, lands at Liverpool. Veterans of landings in Africa and Sicily, they joined the 1,500,000 Americans gathering in England for the invasion of Europe. Among them is 22-year-old Walter Martinez with the 2nd Ranger Battalion.
They broke our outfits up, and when we went there to England, we were what you call like replacement, repa depots. And when we got there, we were filling in different outfits, you know, to bring him up to strength, because some of these outfits, particularly mine, they had fought in Anzio and Salerno. So in England, they came around to the repo depots looking for us, brand new from the state, even though some of us had 2 and 3 years to fill in these outfits, but the Ranger outfit was strictly a volunteer. Rangers as a whole, they spearhead for outfits. Spearhead means that you have to break through.
To prepare Operation Overlord, as Churchill has named the invasion, 16 million tons of weaponry will have arrived in New England by invasion time. Meanwhile, Allied troops are subjected to the most rigorous training they have ever known.
I was trained real hard. We learned how to jump, using all kinds of TNT dynamite to blow up for railroad tracks behind the lines, and most anything that had to do with combat, we were pretty well trained. The rifles and guns like that, we knew pretty well, but just tactics. As a matter of fact, the British liaison, they used to say, you guys trained harder than the war actually is, and some of these guys knew because they had fought in North Africa. The people who trained me were Rangers, and sometimes I wonder if I was more afraid of them than I was of the Germans, because these guys were really tough and rugged. We had boxing tournaments within the battalions and division regimentals, and if you boxed, they give you 3 days off in London so you can cure your wounds.
Across the English Channel, the Germans continue to fortify their strength. Since its conception, the Atlantic Wall has been Hitler's obsession. Thousands of laborers have worked to forge its guns, machine gun bunkers, and concrete obstacles, which have made it into a fearsome barricade. The wall would even be stronger if Germany's commander-in-chief in the West, Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt, believed in it as much as Hitler. With 2,000 miles of coastline to defend, von Rundstedt believes that an army can't cover every inch equally. Assuming the initial Allied landing is successful, von Rundstedt plans to move his powerful reserve forces to that location and drive the invasion army back into the sea. Hitler's decorated Field Marshal Erwin Rommel is ordered to France in late 1943 to conduct an inspection tour of the Atlantic defenses. Rommel concludes that the success of Rundstedt's defense depends on air cover. However, the beleaguered Luftwaffe can no longer guarantee that, so he urges drastic revisions. In January 1944, Rommel is given principal responsibility for the coast defense. Convinced that the invasion team must be destroyed before it ever gets across the beaches, Rommel orders every gap in the wall closed. The high water line, he says, must be the main fighting line. Rommel sets about fortifying the approaches. He orders the construction of submerged obstacles, concrete protrusions, spikes, and mines to slow the landing. On the beaches, the artillery is roofed and walled with concrete, laced together with miles of barbed wire. 4 million landmines are buried in the Normandy sand. For the next 7 miles back, every open area is flooded or planted with obstacles to frustrate any airborne landing. Every available soldier, from baker to clerk, is called into service. The first 24 hours of the landing will be decisive. Even with troop strength depleted by the demands of the Russian front and the Allied landings at Anzio, 14 German divisions are lined up and waiting by the middle of May. One of them is the Panzer Lehr that is brought in from Hungary.
Well, the Panzer Lehr was one of the crack divisions of the German army, and it had been brought to Normandy almost at full strength. They only had 2 weeks to prepare for the fighting in Normandy, but the Panzer Lehr was in good shape. It had armaments, it had Tiger tanks, it had personnel, and it was, in fact, perhaps the best fighting division in the German army.
The actual deployment of the Panzer Lehr at Normandy creates a division in the German High Command.
The great debate in the German defenses was between Rundstedt and Rommel. And Rundstedt believed that to stop the invasion, you would have to allow the troops to get ashore, and then, when they were ashore but could not get out of the pocket, hit them with everything you had. In other words, to allow the landings to occur and then hit the troops once they were ashore. Rommel, on the other hand, felt that the only way to stop the invasion was to hit the troops on the beaches before they could get ashore.